Most people, half of what they thought today is the same things they thought yesterday about themselves, about their life, about their business. That's why most people's lives don't change very much. But if you wake up and you start realizing, I'm living in a home, an emotional home I don't want, you can change it. See, because everybody's got it. If you got $1 billion, check this out. If you had $1 billion, but the habitual emotions you go back to are frustrated and pissed off, then your life is called frustrated and pissed off. It doesn't matter how much money you have. Write this down, please. The quality of my life is the quality of my habitual emotions. The quality of my entire life is nothing but the quality of my habitual emotions. Whatever habits of emotion, wherever my emotional home is, I will find a way to get back there. And until I change that, I'm going to have a problem. How many of you see people in some part of the world, in my country, for example, you'll see this in the middle of America where there's certain places that have cyclones all the time. Or maybe down in New Orleans or places where every few years you get a huge storm that wipes out everybody right on the coast there. But then 2 years later, it happens again. They rebuild, it happens again. How many have ever thought to yourself, why don't these people move? And why don't they move, guys? Because it's what they're conditioned. They call that home. I don't want to leave my home. It's what I know. It's easy to see when it's somebody else and it's physical. It's harder to see when it's yourself and it's emotional, because we have an emotional home. Some of you grew up in a really tough environment. I did too. Pretty brutal environment. Very painful environment. Part of I am who I am is because I didn't want to suffer and I had to find answers. And because I suffered so much, I don't want you to ever suffer if I can do anything about it. I can't control it, but I can help massively. But it's only because I suffered so much I don't want anybody else to. But think about it. Most people suffer even when they're successful. Listen, if you're successful and you're not fulfilled, that's the ultimate failure. If you got people that love you and you're not feeling joyous and alive, something's wrong. And you know what it is? You got an old home you're used to. Maybe the home you're used to is not a very happy home. It's a home of worry, a home of frustration, a home of anger, a home of feeling everything's unjust. And so you find a way to get back home using whatever the environment you can use. How many of you know somebody who's always pissed off about something? How many of you know somebody who is always worried? How many of you know someone who's not really funny, but they think they are? And they crack themselves up telling stupid jokes? How many know someone like this who cracks themselves up and they laugh so much that even though it's not funny, you find yourself laughing too? These people have different emotional homes. Some people's home is anger. They'll always find something to be angry about. It's what they're used to. It's their conditioning. So even when the storm comes in and messes up their life, they go right back to that same shit. Wouldn't it be nice to upgrade your home, your emotional home where you live? What if you could live every day with a vast majority of the emotions you had were joy and gratitude and love and appreciation, even in the middle of COVID, even when somebody does something unjust, compassion, playfulness? What would that feel like if you were in those states every day, 90-95% of the time? When you weren't, you got out of it quick. You can make that change this weekend, and I'm not exaggerating an ounce. I'm not saying you're going to be perfect and never have a negative feeling, because negative feelings are sometimes a signal to make us change. But most people have a negative feeling and they just hang on to it and keep living with it and find other things to be negative about. That will never give you what you want. The money won't do it. The acknowledgement of others won't do it. Everything you think will do it will not do it. Only one thing will do it. You drawing a line in the sand and making the most important decision of your life that you're going to live in a beautiful state no matter what. Because life is too short to suffer. We have a choice. Listen to me. Pain is sometimes part of life, but suffering is a choice. But for most of us, not a choice, because we have the habit of suffering, being stressed, being worried, being frustrated, being pissed off. And because we're wired that way, that's the muscle we built. But if we rebuild our home here so it's even more magnificent, then you can have the life that you desire and deserve. And you can do it one weekend only if you give your all and push enough energy out while you're doing it, while you're learning. Who's up for this here? So who's up for enhancing your home massively? Say aye. Say aye. Bang on the door. I'm the oldest. They're screaming, so I go answer the door. And I answer the door, and standing there is this giant man. It was this little boy. And he's holding this huge box of food. And beside him on the ground was a black pot with an uncooked turkey in it. And he said, "Is your father home?" And I said, "Just one moment." I was like, this is a gift from God. This is going to change it all. This is going to make my mom and dad happy. It's going to be unbelievable. So I go, and my father is screaming at my mother through a closed door to the bedroom door. And I said, Dad, there's a guy at the door. And he goes, "Go, you answer the door." I said, "I did. He's got to see you." I kind of teased. I said, "Dad, you got to come." So he said, "Fine." He made one last yell at her, and he walks to the door. And I'm waiting there, just can't waiting to see his face. And my dad opens the door, and this man's standing there with this big box of food. And my father did not get happy. He looked at this man, and he raised his voice to him, and he said, "Look, we don't take charity." And then he took the door to slam it in the man's face. But the man was a good-sized man. He put his foot there and smacked his foot and bounced back over. He said, Sir, this is not charity. Everybody has tough times. Somebody knows you're having a tough time. And they want you to have a magical Thanksgiving. I'm just the delivery guy." He said, "Please take this." And my father said, "We don't take charity." He went to slam it again. And this time the guy put his shoulder against it so he couldn't do it. And then my father's staring at him. It's like these two males starting to get in this intense mode. And one just trying to give a gift, and I'm freaking. And then the guy said something that I'll never forget. And moments I wish he hadn't said. But he found a way to force my father. He's holding this thing, and he looked at me. And then he looked at my dad, and he said, "Don't make your family suffer because of your ego." Now my dad's level of energy increased. But he was also trapped. You get it? So he took the food, slammed it on our table, and slammed the door in the man's face, and never even thanked him. And then I thought, years I figured out, our whole life is shaped by decisions. That's what we've talked about today, right? But there's 3 decisions you're making every moment you're alive. And the way you make these 3 decisions shapes your destiny. First decision we're all making every moment is, what are you going to focus on? What are you going to focus on? I realized that my father's life and my life ended up very different because we made that day 3 decisions very differently. He decided to focus on the fact that he has not fed his family. And the second question you got to decide, every moment you're alive, including this moment, what are you going to focus on? Second question is, as you're focusing on, what does this mean? What does it mean? And the bottom line on meaning is, if you think about it, you get to make up the meaning, and most people pick the worst one, don't they? That day, my father decided to focus on the fact he hadn't fed his family, and I know what meaning he gave because he said it out loud over and over again, that he was worthless because he had not taken care of his family. And then the final, most important decision you make every moment you're alive, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And I'll tell you what he decided to do. He decided to leave our family shortly thereafter, which at the time was the worst experience of my life. It was the most crushing experience I felt. I realized in that moment that the worst day of my life, my father leaving, had actually been the best day of my life. Because if I hadn't had that experience, I wouldn't be here today. And now because of that, I'm get to live this life. I have the desire and the drive and the want to give it this way. Everybody experiences extreme stress at some point in their life. I don't care who we are. Something happens outside our control and it hits our life and it knocks us on our tail. It might be a health stress. It could be something with your family. It could be economic, career. It could be something emotional that happens, biochemical. There's so many things. It could be an environmental situation that had nothing to do with you. Every one of us in our lifetime are experiencing extreme stress. And these days, because of the economy and the way we respond to it, the majority of people are experiencing some form of extreme stress, at least according to polls. Stress doesn't come from the facts. Stress comes from the meaning that we give to the facts. Yes, those things have happened. But the real question is, if we fight what's happened, we got a problem. We got to decide, what are we going to do with what's happened in our life? How are we going to take this? How are we going to mold this? How are we going to turn our life around? Because when you come up with a new meaning, you get a new life. So what are we going to do in this session? Well, in this session, we're going to take a look at something from a different perspective. We're going to ask you this question. What is the single force that controls the quality of your life? If there was one gift our Creator has given us, or the universe, whatever you believe, what is it? What is the one power that you have right now in this moment that can change everything? You have it, I have it, we all have it. It's this one singular individual power that can change anything in our life, regardless of what's happened to us. And I know you know the answer. The answer is the power of choice. The one thing we have in this world is we can't control the events, but we can choose what to focus on, we can choose what things mean, and we can choose what to do. Those three choices, those three decisions really control our life. It's not so much the conditions of our life that control our destiny as much as the decisions of our life. Try for a second to think about something. Think about your life. And just think about, are there a few decisions? If I were to ask you 2 decisions you've made in your life, you know, that if you would have made a different decision, you would have had a totally different life. I mean, it may be, a life may have been better or may have been worse, I don't know, but you would have a different life. I'm not asking you to buy into the fact that you should have known the answers. I just want you to see the power of a decision. How is your life better today because of a decision you made years ago, not just negative ones? Think about it. Sometimes a little decision changes your whole life. Like you decide one day to go to a certain school, and you go to that school, or to go eat someplace, and you bump into the person that becomes the love of your life. Or you meet someone, and you decide as a result of that you're going to become a photographer, or a software engineer, or a business person, or a doctor, a dentist, whatever. They impacted you, but you made the decision, that's what I really want. That's what my life's going to be about. And that decision has affected so much of your life, what you do, how you live your life, how you spend your time, what you earn or don't earn, you know, who you attract into your life, beliefs you have, all come from some of these little decisions. What you decide to eat from your dinner plate each night certainly determines your physical destiny, right? We all know that, at least to a certain extent. I know there's a certain amount that's genetics, but I'm talking about the stuff you and I can control. So decisions equal destiny. It's not our conditions, it's our decisions. So if we want a new life, if we want a new experience, we've got to make new choices. If you don't like the way your career is or your business is, change it. If you don't like your body, change it. You don't like your relationship, change you first. Because if you change it, you'll bring you to the next one. Maybe it's time to change it too, but change yourself first. If you want to change anything in your life, you have the choice. So there is no right or wrong. I just want to make you aware in this breakthrough session that everything in our life changes the moment we make a decision. And I mean a real decision. A decision is when you cut off any other possibility and you commit to something with everything you've got and you take action. But the big decisions start with little decisions like, what am I going to focus on? Because whatever you focus on, you're going to feel. If you focus on all the things that have been done to you in your life, of course you're going to feel like hell. If you focus on all the amazing coincidences that have happened, things that maybe they were guided, maybe not, but things happen, and because of that, you met this person that's your best friend, your husband, your wife, or because of that, you have this ability, or because you were there that day, God, you missed an accident. I don't know what it is, but whatever you focus on, you're going to feel. If you focus on people don't care, and you'll look for reasons why they don't care, and evidence they don't care, you'll find it everywhere. If you look for evidence that people are really good people inside, that at some level we all care about each other, you'll find it. Seek and you shall find. The secret is, have you become conscious about your decision making? Because this breakthrough session is really, you want to change your life, make new choices. New life comes from new choices, but you got to make conscious choices. The people in this particular television special, Melissa and her husband, they really found themselves in a place where they were both making decisions, Melissa and Rick, that were unconscious. When you make decisions about what to focus on and what things mean and what to do, and you're unconscious, you get pretty terrible results usually. Now, we've all done this. I do it still. We all do. But if you want to change your results, you got to become more conscious in your decision making. So think about it. What you focus on, you will feel. Whether it's true or not. You focus on how people don't care, you're going to feel they don't care. Second decision you make is what do things mean. So you focus on something someone does and you come up with a meaning, and the meaning is, no one loves me. The meaning is they're trying to take advantage of me. Depending on what meaning you come up with, and you get to choose the meaning of anything. For some people, they say, this situation happened with the economy, and what that means is I'm going broke. Somebody else said, the situation happened with the economy, guess what? That means I'm going to work harder, I'm going to be more creative, it changed everything. Everybody else is going to quit, so we're going to dominate the marketplace. For people to do it. Is this the end right now, or is it the beginning? See, whether it's the end or beginning is your choice. You get to decide, because once you make up a meaning, it's true. If you think that this is the end of a relationship, are you going to treat people the same way as if you think it's the beginning of a relationship? No way. In fact, I tell people, if you want to have a great relationship, think about this. Treat people like you did in the beginning of the relationship, and there won't be an end. In the beginning of the relationship, When somebody says to you, would you take out the trash? What do you say? Of course, take out the trash. You're happy to do anything, right? But after about 6 months or 6 years, you go, take them out the trash. You go, what do you mean? What, I look like your janitor? Take out your own trash. The meaning we give things is very different, and so we feel different, and our life is different. In the beginning, you'll do anything for someone. Now you make up a new meaning. Why should I have to do that for them? Little choices, like what to believe about yourself, what to believe about other people, whether this is the end or the beginning, start to affect your whole life. And the third decision we make, we decide what to focus on, most of us unconsciously. We decide what things mean, and the third thing we decide is, what are we going to do? We decide to quit because it's overwhelming. We decide to get strong and focus. We decide we're going to turn it around. We decide to wait and see. Ultimately, your destiny is determined by what you do. So, for example, what do you do if somebody comes to you one day and says you have a tumor? Again, I have that experience. I use that as a reference point because I've had a lot of intense experiences in my life, but that was one of the more intense ones for sure. Had many, but that was very intense. You know, first, what do you focus on? Do you focus on it's over? Do you focus on why me? Do you give it a meaning that says, I'm going to die? What do? Do you just go through traditional therapeutic approach? Do you put yourself in the hands of someone else? Do you evaluate this? Do you get a second or third opinion? Your destiny is determined by your decisions. Now, if you're a guy like Lance Armstrong, you focus immediately on, I gotta find a solution. The meaning you come up with is, this is the ultimate battle. And what you decide to do is you're gonna exhaust every possibility. Now, that doesn't guarantee you're gonna succeed, but it's interesting. When you have that kind of a mindset, it shifts you. And Lance Armstrong, I mean, he was told things like, look, you got tumors here in your brain, you got them in your lungs, right? You got obviously in the testicles, and you ride a bike for a living. That's pretty tough. But he made it through all of those pieces. Now, am I saying because he made the right choices? I can't tell you that. There's certainly some grace in everything. I think in life, there's three things. There's our ability to choose what we're focused on, or to commit, to get a result, to put all our intention and focus into something. There's our ability to do the right things, to have the right strategy, to execute. And then there's some grace. There's what some people call luck, some people call grace. There's, if you do the right things over and over again and with total focus, sometimes, you know, you get good fortune that comes your way. And you tend to have more good fortune when you're totally focused and decisive and you take lots of action than if you kind of just sit around and accept things like that you don't have a future.
What is it that prevents people from doing the things they already want to do in life?
The most basic answer, I'm sorry it's so simple, but it's true, it's fear. People making this complex process, this woman was telling me that I don't understand why they don't do this, why I feel this way. I said, it's called fear. Everybody's afraid we're not enough. Everybody's afraid we're not rich enough, smart enough, young enough, quick enough, fast enough. It's human nature. But the secret is to do it anyway. I know that sounds so simplistic. My work when I'm working with somebody is showing them how to condition themselves, like building a muscle, so that you take action first, automatically. Because if you don't do that, it's hard. You lose momentum. It's like, how do I get started? Where do I go? Do anything to start the process of moving forward rather than let fear stop you. All of you have targets, things that you're after. If you're gonna get a new result, if you're gonna grow your business, if you're gonna be able to support your mom, if you're gonna get rid of the anxiety, if you're gonna be able to overachieve and not have all that fear inside of you, you obviously need to get a new result. You're gonna have to get new action. You don't get new results with old actions doing the same thing. Exactly. What human beings can do is amazing. What they will do is usually disappointing. It's not because we're not capable of it. It's because we don't have new actions because we get in certain emotional states that dominate us, like anxiety, like fear of failure, right? Like the fear of the loss of your mother as an example. So if you're in a state of fear, you're gonna behave very differently and get very different results than if you were in a place of being courageous or bold or warm or connected or playful, any of those. So the most important key to changing your life in any situation is to change results, you gotta change behavior, but to change behavior, you gotta change the emotional state you're in. How do you do that when you don't feel like it or it feels overwhelming? There are two ways, and I've done this with the greatest athletes in the world. I've done this with 4 different presidents of the United States. I've done it with billionaire clients. All you have to do to change your state is not try to think your way there. Like, I'm happy, I'm happy, I'm happy, and do a bunch of affirmations. Your brain's gonna go BS, you are not happy, right? What you need to do is make a radical change in the way you use what we call your physiology. It's a big word, it just means the way you use your physical body. I've taught this for 40 years, and about 3 years ago, Harvard finally did a study where they proved what I did worked, and they called it these power positions. And what they showed was if you stand, everyone can try this, stand up just for a moment if you want, everybody at home can try it as well. So do something really silly. Put both your hands on your hips like Wonder Woman or Superman or that stuff, right? If you stand like this and you breathe deep for just 2 minutes, what the science found was that you will absolutely increase your testosterone by 20%, man or woman. You'll drop your cortisol, which as you know is the stress hormone, by 22%, and you're 33% more likely to take action if you wouldn't have before because fear would have stopped you. Now, I don't have people just stand like this. I have people move, use their voice, make radical changes in their body. You'll feel it after 2 minutes. Or, somebody who's, puts their arms back like this and their feet up, that'll produce the same state. It produces more certainty in you, and that certainty gets you to take different actions. So if you are in a situation, you think of the worst scenario, your mom dying, my business goes under, I never achieve at the level I need to, all the things I have anxiety about, the minute you focus on them, you go into those states of fear, and then you behave fearful, and you get lousy results. And when you get lousy results, what does it do to your brain? You go, see, I told you I couldn't do this. It becomes this negative loop. So how do we break out of it? We change our focus by asking better questions. Answer this question in your mind. What is it in your life that you're proud of? If there's something you could feel really proud of right now by focusing on it, your children, yourself, something you accomplished, you did, how many can think of something you could feel proud of? And I don't mean fake pride, ego pride, like where you're making things up. I mean, well, you really did something you're proud of. Good. Right now, close your eyes and focus on how it feels when you're really proud. Focus on that moment you're proud of. How do you breathe when you feel really proud? And if you're a little kid, what happens to your face when you're really proud? You don't hide it, right? There's that big smile on your face. Think of something that you could be really grateful for or excited. Pick either one. Something you could be grateful for, a person, a moment, or something if you wanted to that you could be excited about. Let's use excited for a moment. How many could think of something in your life that if you focused on it, you could feel excited? All right, close your eyes. And just for a moment, all we're doing is changing your focus. Focus on what could excite you. Feel like it's really happening. Your mom's healing, you break through in the business, you're achieving the level you want. Anxiety is rid from my life. I'm on charge, I'm on top of it. How do you breathe when you feel really excited?
Yeah.
So if we change the state you're in, just by changing our focus or the way we use our bodies, it's gotta be a radical change, right? Here's my question for all of you. If you focus on what you want, life has probabilities, there's no guarantees, but you increase them when you change your state. And that's really what this is all about. Learning to change your body and learning to change your focus. Somebody is really stressed out. They're not stressed out for no reason. It's because they're focusing on something that makes them feel stressed. They often, when they're focusing on it, it changes the body. You start to feel tight. You start to feel a certain way. And then they use language like, I don't know what to do. Why am I so overwhelmed? So if we change what we focus on, if we change the way we use our body, if we change our language patterns, we'll instantly feel different. Think of how do people use their body when they're worried versus when they're excited? Yeah. If you learn to use your body first, use your focus first, you can literally change how you feel in moments, and then you develop new habits where you start to feel good all the time, and it isn't some phony, fake pump up. It's literally the way you've conditioned your body. Just like being fit as an athlete, you want to be emotionally fit. When you're not sure what you're going to do, you're going to hesitate. And hesitation kills momentum. And momentum is what makes a sports team win. It's what makes an athlete, a business person win. When you get momentum, it's like it takes enormous energy to get a rocket out of our gravitational pull of the earth. But out of the solar system's easy. Once it has momentum, it takes less fuel, less energy. Starting a relationship, starting a business, changing your body, it takes so much in the beginning. But once you get going, it's actually really easy. We all have a need for certainty. We have a need to know that we can avoid pain, that we can be comfortable. Some people do that when they're stressed by smoking. Some people work out hard to deal with it. Some people eat to try to get that comfort back. If you were certain every moment of your life, you knew what people are going to do, when they're going to do it, how they're going to do it, you'd be bored out of your mind. So we also need uncertainty. If you have too much uncertainty, you freak out. If you have too little, you feel bored out of your mind. And you can get uncertainty or variety by a great conversation, by making love, by taking on a new job or a new career, a new opportunity. You get a million ways. The question is, do you meet your needs in ways that are positive or negative? Because sugar will make you feel good in the moment, but you feel good long term. Smoking a cigarette will make you comfortable and certain. You see this in great actors or great entertainers. They'll come to me, and in the beginning, they work so hard to be significant, to be unique, to be special, to be important. What they really wanted was love. But now people stop on the street and they'll say to me, they don't even know who I am. They just want my time. They just want this. They want a picture. They don't respect my family. They don't respect it. You'll hear them so upset. What they wanted was the love. We can have both. But the more significant I am, the more unique I am, the more separate I am from you. The more connected I am, then some people go, yeah, but where am I? Where am I special? So finding that balance between the two is what makes people feel alive. And we can meet all these needs in positive ways or negative ways. You can get significance by tearing other people down. Oh, they're lucky, they don't care, they took advantage of somebody. You don't know anything about them. You see people dealt with famous people all the time. Why are they tearing them down? Because if I don't feel good about myself, if I can make you smaller, I look like I'm moving up. But you're not, and it doesn't work. But if you do things where you significantly love someone, if you care for someone, you're the most significant person in life. If you try to prove you're significant, then you have kind of the Trump effect. Even people that like him will say, sometimes he can push people aside because he's telling everybody how special he is. That gets in the way of relationship. If we're going to connect, we got to not make ourselves significant. We got to find out what's significant in the other person and honor it. First four needs are the needs of the personality. We all find a way to be certain, even if we have to lie to ourselves or just work hard. We all find variety. We all find significance, even if it's tearing other people down. We all find at least connection, if not love. But the spiritual needs are to grow. When people say, what does it take to be happy? I say one word, progress. If you're not there yet, but you are starting to make some progress in your body, or progress on your relationship, or progress on your career, your finances, you're going to feel good. And when you achieve it, how long do you feel good for? Not very long, because when you achieve it, you stop growing. You kind of celebrate. Nothing wrong with that. But how long after you get that thing you wanted are you happy? A week, a month, a year? Almost never a year. It's a short time. And the reason is we're not supposed to just sit there at the table of success and celebrate for years. We need to grow to feel alive. And everything in the universe grows or it dies. But when we grow, we have something to give. And when we give, people often say human beings are selfish. I've been selfish, I'm sure you've been at times, but that's not my core and it's not anybody's, and I'll prove it to you. When you're having, all of you at home and all of you here, when you have something great in your life that happens, you learn something, you experience something beautiful, what's the first thing you want to do?
Tell people.
Share somebody what you love. Why? Because when you share with it, it expands. See, pleasure is something coming in from the outside. Happiness is something inside you that you share. And happiness is what people really want. Pleasure, you can get pleasure from alcohol or anything, but some people, it's all about me. When you're taking what's inside yourself because you've grown and you're giving it to someone you love, your children, a friend, a girlfriend, boyfriend, a coworker, anybody, there's an aliveness you can't feel by yourself. There's only so much pleasure you can feel. Happiness and joy comes when that expansion is shared. Well, if you want a breakthrough, not just a little change, you can change laterally. You can go from being pissed off to frustrated.
Right.
Doesn't help you much, right? But if you really want to change, most people are trying to change. Say you want to lose weight, and they want to make money. They go, how do I do it? They look for the strategy. But I'd like you to think of 3 S's. Strategy is where most people go first. Like, how do I do it? But how hard is it really truly to be fit and have energy? It's not that complex. It's not like reserved for the 1% or expensive to learn. You have to interrupt. You have to hide from the answers to those things. The real problem is the second S, story. They have a story that says it's a set of beliefs they tell themselves over and again. I've tried everything. Or if they're single, all the good ones are gone. Whatever the story is. And if you tell yourself a story over and over again, so we convince ourselves. You always come up with a lousy story when you're in a lousy state. And so the number one thing I show people to do is how to change their emotional state. When you're feeling tired or frustrated, when you learn how to change your body so that you really feel excited and isn't fake, when you learn how to change your biochemistry, which is what I teach people to do, when you're upset with someone, do you ever notice how you can now remember everything that they've ever done that ever upset you, right? Yes. But when you're in love, what's wrong with life? What's wrong with anything? When you're in love, we have no money. Who cares? We're in love, right? So your emotional state controls the story you have about your life, and then your story determines whether you find a strategy, or even if you know the strategy, whether you really do it or not. When people say I tried, what they're really telling me is I have a story that says I should try this, but it's really not gonna work. So I give it a half-reared attempt and it didn't work, and now I can tell people I tried. What you really gotta do is learn to change your emotion, your state, change your story, and then you can find the strategy, or you can make the strategy to work. I constantly believe you gotta feed your mind and challenge your body, because the mind-body works together, you know? What stops people, as we said, is fear. Well, fear is physical. You feel it in your throat, your gut. But if you do something really physically strong on a regular basis, you develop a new emotional habit. And that emotional habit will get you to follow through and do things differently that people won't do. It's really not that complex. There are a few habits in your life that truly could change your whole life. I start every single day with this process called priming, training my brain to be in a peak state. So what I do every day is I prime myself for what I want rather than letting the environment control me. We've all had times when you snapped at somebody and you felt bad because it wasn't them, it was the state you're in, right? Well, there's no excuse for that. If you prime yourself, you set yourself up. But the way I did it is I do this process. It's 10 minutes, I put some music on, I do this massive change in my breathing so it radically changes the way I feel. And then I do this 3-step process. First, I do 3 minutes of gratitude where I think of 3 things I'm really grateful for, and I associate, I don't think of it over there, I feel it. And the reason is, when you're grateful, you can't be worried. You can't be fearful. When you're grateful, you can't be angry. And anger and fear are what screw people up most in their relationships, in their life, in their business. So I wire myself. I was saying to you that most people want to be happy, but their habit is to be worried or pissed off or frustrated or stressed. And so they've got a highway to stress and they got a dirt road to happiness. So I wire myself. I've got a highway to gratitude, which changes all your emotions. And then I do a 3-minute process of kind of a prayer for my family and friends. And then I do a 3-minute process of the top 3 things I want to accomplish. I see it as done and I feel it. I'm done in 10 minutes. So sometimes I go 20, but my deal is 10, so there's no excuse not to do it. If there's one thing I teach, and I want to remind you of it, it's really simple. Getting things is not going to make you happy. That's good news in a tough economy. It's a good reminder. You know, it doesn't matter what you get. Doesn't matter whether it be money or opportunity. All those things might excite you for the moment. You know, even a relationship, as magnificent it may be, might be exciting for a while. But if you don't keep growing, that relationship isn't going to stay exciting. So the secret to real happiness is progress. Progress equals happiness. And if we can make progress on a regular basis, we feel alive. And that's why at the beginning of the year, we get this thing like, okay, I can have this fresh start. I could really do what my soul desires. I could expand. I could grow. I could improve. I could change. Or maybe better than change, I could progress. See, think about that. Progress is an aliveness to it, doesn't it? You don't have to work at changing. People say all the time now, well, I'm working on changing. Don't worry about it. You don't have to work on changing. Change is automatic. Your body's going to change whether you want it or not as the years go by. And no matter how hard you work, there's going to be some changes going on there. The economy is going to change no matter what you want it to do. The weather is going to change. Relationships are going to change. Everything in life is always changing. We don't have to work on change. Change is automatic, but progress is not. So if you want to make real progress, then you really got to look at your life in a different way. You got to say, I got to take control of this process and not just hope it's going to work out like people do who make a resolution. Because really, isn't that what they're really doing at the beginning of the year? They're saying, well, here's my resolutions for the year, and they really basically tell you their wishes. It's their wish list. It's what they hope it all comes together. And then they call it a resolution, but they don't know what a resolution is. When you resolve something, to have a resolution is to resolve it. When you've resolved, this is how it's going to be. That's when you cut off any possibility except the thing you've committed to. It's like the old adage, if you want to take the island, you burn the boats. Because when you burn those boats, there's no going back. You're going to find a way to make things work. And most people, they're stating what they hope will come together. And if it doesn't happen, then they're disappointed, but they're not too disappointed because they're not too vested. What does it take to successfully create a lasting change in your life? To not only have a New Year's resolution you follow through on, but really have a lasting change? Well, the first step for lasting change is very much like making a New Year's resolution. Fundamentally, it's the same. The first step is you got to have a vision for what it is you really, truly want. Not what you think you want or what you should have. I mean, what are most people's New Year's resolutions? I'm going to stop eating sugar. I'm going to stop smoking. I'm going to lose 10 pounds. The problem with that is it's not very inspiring for most people. It's not telling you what you're going to get. It's only what you're not going to do. And it's kind of hard to have you move forward with that. A vision is about what you're here to create. A vision that really works is one that excites you. If you say, well, my resolution, my goal, my outcome for this month, this week, this year is to lose X number of pounds, that's okay, but it's not very compelling. It has to be a compelling vision. It's got to have something that has the power to pull you, not something you have to push yourself to do. Those are two different kinds of motivation. Push requires willpower, and willpower never lasts. What will last is pull. Having something so exciting, so attractive, something you desire so much that you have a hard time going to sleep at night and you get so up early in the morning to rock it and take it to the next level. That's what you're looking to create. And that isn't easy to get. But one of the reasons we do seminars and events, and we say, why do that? Why not just read a book or something? Is because when you get in an environment where you're with people that are being put in a peak state, like when you're going to a sporting event, if you watch a sporting event at home, it might have a certain level of excitement. But when you're in a stadium with 50,000 people, suddenly it has a whole different level of intensity. And we feel that. And the bottom line of our follow-through comes down to our emotional intensity. In a different state of mind, you're going to come up with a much better and a more exciting vision than if you're sitting on the couch going, okay, what are my new resolutions for this year? And you're doing it the morning after the new year has started and you're a little inebriated and the football game's on in the background. Probably not going to have the power of focus there. Probably not going to have the power of the energy to create something that's going to pull you for this year. And you got to do that. So it's got to be a vision that's compelling. Something that it's going to be a gift to make sure that it happens. And also, along with that compelling vision, you got to have strong enough reasons that you're going to follow through when the going gets tough. That's one of the biggest things missing for most people. They say, this is what I want to do. It's not very exciting. It's not very compelling. But most importantly, they don't have strong enough reasons to push themselves through what's going to be necessary to get that dream, to get that goal when the inevitable challenges come up. When you're starving, hungry, and you're trying to go on a diet, right? When you got no time and you're stressed out and you haven't worked out still, and that's what you're supposed to do. When the economy gets tight and what you thought you're going to do doesn't work, and so you give up on the goal instead of finding another way to get there. You don't let the fear take you over if you've got strong enough reasons. Those reasons can be positive, or those reasons can also be negative. They can be, if I don't do this, this is what's going to cost me. And if I do this, this is what I'm going to gain in my life. Reasons come first, answers come second. If you get a compelling vision and you got strong enough reasons that will push you through the tough times, you're going to do things other people don't do. Instead of collapsing, even if you get off target, you won't go, oh, I blew it. You'll get right back on target, make the change, make things happen. And I know you've done this in many areas of your life. Just think about it again. I'm not teaching you something really new here today. I just want to remind you of what your soul knows. You got to change, you got to improve, and you got to go through a simple process fundamentally to make that progress. First step, vision that's compelling. Second step, make sure that there's strong enough reasons to follow through. Third step, you got to review it and feel it every day. I mean, anything. Have you ever had this happen in your life? Has there been anything in your life that you've ever wanted so badly? You were so desirous of it. You had such a hunger for it that you couldn't stop thinking about it. Could have been a career move, could have been when you were a kid, a car, it could have been a relationship, it could have been anything, but you were obsessed. You wanted to make this happen. You wanted to attract this to your life. You just wanted something. And you didn't even know how to get it. But it was so compelling to you. You kept thinking about it every day, envisioning it, imagining it, feeling it. And then stuff happened. And suddenly you started to attract people or situations to your life, and it just came together. Like, you didn't even have a total plan. It was just that it was so a part of your focus with so much intensity and emotion so often that it sensitized you to notice anything that could get you there. There's a part of your brain called the reticular activating system. For short, we call it the RAS. That part of your brain determines what you notice in the world. And it's really important because when you set a goal, when you get really clear on a vision, and there's strong enough reasons, and you review it enough, and it becomes a part of you, that part of your brain says, anything that relates to this, I need to notice. It's like, did you ever buy a certain kind of car, or maybe a certain outfit, and suddenly you see that car everywhere, or those outfits everywhere? Well, you know the cars were always around, but why do you see it now? Because your RAS knows this is important, this is part of my world now. Similarly, when you really get clear, and it's compelling, and you're reviewing it every day, got strong reasons, and you're reviewing it every day, and you're feeling it, the brain becomes incredibly acute at noticing anything to get you to move forward. And so that's the power of this. So, what do people do with a New Year's resolution? They come up with something they kind of want. It's not a compelling vision. They don't really have strong enough reasons, and they never review it again until they notice that they broke what they said they really want to have make happen, because they didn't really resolve. If you resolve, you got the vision, it's compelling, You review it daily and you feel it, you envision it and you experience it. Simple as it sounds. Now, ultimately, what is this really about? Ultimately, if you're gonna have lasting change in anything, you're really talking about just raising your standards. I mean, I always tell people, if you wanna know how to change your life, I give it to you in 3 words, boring as it sounds: raise your standards. And what does that mean? Corny as it sounds, raise your standards. Oh, thank you for the breakthrough thought, Tony. I'm glad I wasted my time watching this little email with you. But think about it. Lasting change is different than a goal. You don't always get your goals, but you always get your standards. Maybe it would help you is to think about it this way. I try to explain standards to people with a different set of words. Think of it as everybody in life gets their musts. They don't get their shoulds. Like, think about it. Most people have a list of shoulds, don't they? Don't you have a list of the shoulds, things you should do, you should follow through on? I should lose some weight, I should work out more, I should make more calls, I should respond more rapidly to my email, whatever, you know? I should get into the office earlier, I should be, more confident, whatever your should list is. People love to have their should list be met, but it's kind of like New Year's resolutions. If it does, it's really exciting, but if it doesn't, which is most of the time, it's a little disappointing, but you kind of know it's not gonna happen. But when you decide something is a must for you, an absolute must, when you cut off any possible, you say, I'm gonna find the way or I'm gonna make the way. Human beings, when they resolve things, when they make a real resolution inside themselves, which is they raise the standard and they make it a must, they find the way. Think about it in your own life. Haven't you had some area of your life where you raise your standard and your life has never been the same? Maybe at one time in your life you smoked cigarettes, or you did something and you did it for years and you kept trying to change it and kept telling yourself I should. And then one day something happened. Something just clicked you over. Something took you over that kind of tipping point. And inside yourself you said no more. And it was a very, very different experience, wasn't it? Something inside of you shifted and what was a should became a must, and you've never gone back. Is there an area like that in your life you can think of? Again, did you ever smoke cigarettes? Did you ever eat a certain way, drink a certain form of alcohol, and then finally say no more, and you just don't go back? And notice this, it doesn't really take any willpower anymore. Because somewhere when we make this click, when we make something a must, we attach ourselves to it. It becomes part of our identity. And one thing I've learned in the last, 33 years of working with people from now over 100 countries, 4 million people, is human beings absolutely follow through on who they believe they are. If you said to me, well, I'm really gonna work hard to stop smoking, but I've been a smoker my whole life and I am a smoker, I know your days are numbered. You're gonna be back smoking cigarettes again, because we all act consistent with who we believe we are. I tell people the strongest force in the whole human personality is this need to stay consistent with how we define ourselves. If you define yourself as somebody who is really conservative, you're not gonna be crazy and act nuts unless you're really drunk or something, and then you can say it's the alcohol, when it's really just you finally getting permission to be yourself. The alcohol is your excuse. If you're a really crazy person, you act crazy, outrageous, playful. You don't act conservative because that's not who you are. Very often people say, well, I can't do that, I'm not that kind of person. And I always say to people, really, when did you define yourself? I mean, really, how many years ago did you come up with what you could and couldn't do in your life? How many years ago? Most people, if they really look at how they're living their life today, it's based on a set of standards, a set of beliefs that they made choices about 10, 20, 30 or more years ago. I mean, very often we made decisions in our youth or very young about what to believe, about what we were capable of, about who we are as a person, and that becomes the glass ceiling, if you will, that controls us. There's a corny metaphor, but it's true. I remember one time I was with my family at the circus, and there was a person there and they had this big giant elephant, and you look at this elephant and they take this little rope, put it around the elephant's neck, and they drive this stake into the ground. And I mean, you look at this and you know that elephant could rip down the entire tent with almost no effort, and yet the elephant doesn't struggle, doesn't try. Why? Because the elephant's conditioned. And they take that elephant and condition the elephant when it's a baby elephant. That's how they train him. When it's a little baby elephant and it doesn't have the power yet, they put a big rope around it and they drive this huge stake in the ground, and the elephant fights and fights and fights. And one day, finally, that elephant decides, I'm not capable of pulling this out. And once that becomes the definition of an identity of anyone, an elephant in this case, they don't even try anymore. It's just who I am, that's how it is, that's just the way it is in my life. I'd like to ask you to take a look at any place you've got a limitation and ask yourself, when did I decide to accept that limitation?
And you may not even see it as a limitation. You might see it as just, that's who I am. But so often in our lives, we've adapted to be a certain way so that we don't fail or so that people will like us or respect us, but it's not necessarily who we are. Joy comes when you're spontaneous. It's really hard to be truly happy when you're not being yourself. And most of us have no clue who we are. And so a big part of my work, if you've ever been to an event, you know, is to get people to do things spontaneously without thinking, because that's when the real you shows up. That's when the energy comes alive. And when you do that, when you start to connect to your true nature, suddenly there's energy available for you to set a higher standard for what you want in your life. That's what this is really all about. And when I talk about standards, when I talk about, shoulds versus musts, think about your own life. I know there have been areas in your life where some point in time you just shifted and you raised the standard and your life changed. Because whatever people have their identity attached to, they live. We live. Every day, and that becomes the standard of how you live, you'll find the way to make that standard real. Money's the same way. Think about it. It doesn't matter what's happening, quote unquote, in the marketplace. People that make money find a way to make money no matter what, don't they? I mean, most people's standard is to pay their bills. So that's what most people find a way to do, even when economic times get tough. Most people, if that's their absolute standard, they find a way. Some people's standard is pay their bills most of the time. And so most of the time they do. Some people's standard is not just to pay their bills, but to take care of their family and maybe even some of their friends. And they find a way. In fact, some people may be in a family where they don't have enough money. They barely have money to pay their bills. They work their guts out. And then somebody, their mother, their father, somebody else, their sister gets ill, and there's not enough money to take care of it. Nobody else has money in the family. They don't either, but they find a way to get that money to take care of their mother or father, don't they? And pay their bills. They never could do it before. Why? The situation made them raise their own standard. And not everybody does that. Somebody else in the family might have money and still not take care of their mother. It all comes down to the inner game, my friends. Changing your life is a change in the inner game. The outside world you can't control, but you have absolute control over this one if you learn the dynamics of what shapes you. And identity is one of those simple, clear, fundamental basics that if you start to shift it, everything else will shift in your life as well. Some people, by the way, have to have more than enough money to do what they want, when they want, where they want, with whomever they want, contribute the way they want. And if that's their must, they find a way. I know that sounds overly simplistic, but it's true. You know, somebody once said you could take all the money in the world out of the hands of everybody, out of all the wealthy people in the world who are really successful, give it to other people. It wouldn't take too long, those people would have it back in their hands. It's not because they're manipulative, it's because they have a standard. Some are manipulative, don't get me wrong, but they've got a standard of what they're gonna find a way to make happen. I'm just simply saying to you, take those 3 magic words and live them. Raise your standard. And if you really wanna do it, then I'll tell you the most important secret. Have you ever done this? Have you ever told yourself you're raising your standard? Okay, I'm gonna go make this happen. I'm gonna go make this much money. I'm gonna transform my kids. I'm gonna create the ultimate relationship in my life. I'm gonna transform my body, whatever it is. And then you don't have strong enough reasons and you don't use it. You don't follow through. It's because you didn't back up your standards with what makes those standards real, and that's rituals. Rituals are where the power is. Whenever we do our Robbins results coaching, and we say Robbins equals results, the way we get results with people, it's the same way if you listen to my Ultimate Edge program, or back in the old days, Personal Power, or if you went to one of my seminars. You know what I do is I take these huge challenges you got and we break them down to little bite-sized steps. Little things you do each day that after you do them, you get so much momentum that it's easy to succeed. You're not overwhelmed. You have these victory day after day after day on little things. If you went through Ultimate Edge, I'm sure you learned about the hour of power, or the 15 minutes to be able to be fulfilled, or 30 minutes to thrive, where you literally just condition your body and emotion with a couple little rituals. So it doesn't matter what's going on in your world, you feel that strength, and it's not fake, it's not some pump up, it's coming from inside you, and it works. Rituals define us. See, all the results in your life are coming from your rituals. They start with a standard and then have rituals that follow it up. Like, for example, if you are where you want to be physically, you have very different rituals than if you're not where you want to be physically. If you're overweight, you and I both know you got a different ritual than if you're physically fit. Completely different. You get up in the morning, what's the first thing you do if you're fit? Your shoes are there, you roll over, doesn't matter how you feel, you put on your shoes, you lace them, you start walking, or whatever that ritual is. If you're overweight, you roll over and you have a very different ritual. You might roll over several times to turn the alarm clock off. You go in and get your mocha, smocha, whatever, special coffee. You stop by at Starbucks, whatever the case may be. You have your nice sugar muffin. It's supposed to be really nice for you. Whatever you do, it's a different ritual. If you have a great, passionate relationship, you have very different rituals in how you come home than if you have a lousy relationship. When you come home and the first thing you do is you're tweeting somebody, or you're emailing, or flipping on the news, or you don't even come home. And what are the rituals? Whenever I study people that are successful, what I look for is what's the standard they hold themselves to? And then what are all those little rituals that add up? Because think about it. Success and failure are not giant events. They don't just show up. You don't just suddenly become successful or suddenly have this cataclysmic event that makes you fail. It may look that way, but failure comes from all the little things. It's failure to make the call. It's failure to check the books. It's failure to say, I'm sorry. It's failure to push yourself to do things physically that you don't want to do. And all those little failures day after day come together until one day some cataclysmic event happens and you blame that. That event happened because you missed all the little stuff. Do you agree with me? And success, by the way, is not some overnight event. It's all these little things. Success is having a vision. Success is making it compelling. Success is really seeing it and feeling it every day with strong enough reasons. Success is feeling the sense that I'm here to grow and I'm here to give something to the world more than just myself. Success is caring about other people. Success is calling and saying, I love you in the middle of the day for no damn reason. Or sending a note. That'll change your relationship. Have a ritual of something funny, playful, or a surprise you do. How many relationships are dead today because they have no surprise rituals anymore? You need to have some rituals, some cool things you do that nobody else does that gives you a better life than anybody else has. All the little stuff. That's where success comes from. In business, it comes from delivering more than anybody could imagine. All those little things add up. People go, wow, that's who I want to do business with. It's true in any area of your life. So If you look at somebody who's really successful and you think, wow, I mean, they're so amazing, they're such a genius, you gotta dig underneath and you gotta remember something. People are rewarded in public for what they've practiced for years in private. Myself and my business people say, how do you get up and speak? And you have no notes and you go for 3 days and nights and the room is like, everybody's wired and it's incredible. It's like a rock concert. How do you do that? How do you have that confidence? Well, and it's not confidence, it's experience now. But I did so much behind the scenes and I still do to make things right. I mean, how many people would know that since the time I was 17 years old, before I walk out on stage, still do to this day, wouldn't need to do it, but I still do it, I never walk out there without being in an absolute peak state of mind. There are days my back is hurting, my throat was hurting, or I may have had a challenge, or my father passed away, and I've still got to deliver for these people because my standard is give my all every time. Every event has to be better. Talk to anybody who's been to our events for 5, 10 years, some of our trainers, and I'll say, I don't know how he does it. He always finds a way to make it better. That's not an ego thing. That's a standard in me. I have to find the way. And my ritual, though, is I prepare, I think, I gather new information, I figure out how to put something across better. What do people need? I spend time with our customers. I see what's going on. And before I get on stage each time, I have this little ritual to put myself in a state of mind. And I did it starting like 17 years old. I started doing it. I'd say, I now command my subconscious mind. And I say this out loud several times, this little phrase, set of phrases, as an incantation to kind of condition my mind and body. And I'd say, I now command my subconscious mind to direct me in helping as many people as possible today by giving me the strength and the emotion and the humor and the brevity, whatever it takes to show this person and help this person change their life now. And I started that with a person when I worked with people one-on-one, and I would do that for 45 minutes driving in my Volkswagen to go serve and coach somebody for the first time. Now I don't say that person, I say these people, and I can go out in a room of 10,000 people and deliver for 50 hours, and I do it every time I come back on stage. It's a ritual to go into peak state. Peak states don't just show up, they don't interrupt you. Great ideas don't interrupt you, you gotta pursue them. I talked to Michael Jordan, I'll never forget, at the peak of his career, and got to watch his final game, saw him backstage and spent some time with him, and it was a pretty exciting time. He was the greatest basketball player I think that ever lived and has ever lived. And I asked him, I said, what sets you apart, Michael? What is it? And is it God-given talent, ability, skill? What is it? And he said, Tony, he said, I can shoot you straight. And it's not, me trying to act humble. He goes, I have a lot of talent, a lot of God-given talent, a lot of skill. I've worked really hard. But he said, really, it's my standards. He said, every day I demand more from myself than anybody else could humanly expect. I'm not competing with somebody else. I'm competing with what I'm capable of. Magic formula. Because most of us lower our standards. Why? Because who you spend time with, my friends, is who you become. One of the biggest reasons I started going to seminars when I was like 17 is I had nobody around me as a great role model. I could read about somebody, but being around people, being in that environment was very different. Finding a way to go to work with someone who lived that standard of life was very different. You get around people with low standards and you compete with it. You don't need to compete with it. It's like, okay. Remember Jerry Springer? I don't know if he's still in the air, but I remember he used to get people on the show and I thought, where would he find these people? And why would people watch? I'll tell you why they watch. They watch these people and go, my life's still pretty darn good compared to that person. Look at them. You don't have to change your life. All you have to do is find somebody with a lower standard and you'll feel good about yourself. But if you feel that good feeling, it's an illusion. The only thing that's going to make you happy, my friend, in this year or any other, is to step up. It's to raise the standard. It's to discover what you're capable of and feel that incredible power of pushing through whatever's holding you back and get to the other side of more of your true self. That's what this game's all about. And look at the best in the world in anything. Tiger Woods, what's his vision? To win golf tournaments? No, to be the best that ever lived. That's his goal, that's his vision. But here's what's interesting, he backs it up with rituals. If you just have a vision and you don't have the rituals, stop lying to yourself. His rituals are, he started doing things nobody did before. He went and started lifting weights. Golfers lifting weights? No way. He went out and he changed his swing when he was the best in the world because he realized in order to be the best that ever lived, he was gonna have to change his swing. If you know anything about golf, you don't change your swing when you're the best. And he went and retrained himself because he has different rituals than other golfers. Now many people are modeling his rituals to get better. It's amazing. You look at somebody like Michael Phelps, the 2008 swimmer, won 7, only 2 people I think in history, if I remember correctly, that have gotten 7 gold medals in one session. And here's a guy, he's got number 6 under his belt and he's exhausted and he's going in for that final swim. I'm sure you remember. And how does the guy win? By 1/100th of a second. Do you think that was some massive skill that got him over the top? Or was it a standard that says, this is who I am? I am the champion, and no one is taking this from me. And somehow in those final milliseconds, 100th of a second, he pushed himself just beyond his competitor. But you know about Michael Phelps? What allowed him to be able to push beyond that moment is his rituals. Go study the guy. Most people who swim have these unbelievable workouts. He does 2 and 3 of those workout sessions a day. All the other swimmers in the beginning thought he was insane. You're gonna overtrain, you can't do that, it's not physically possible. But he had a standard and the rituals to back it up. So here's my final message to you, because I've gotten carried away. I thought I was gonna send you like a 5-minute message, but as you can see, there's no script here, it's just me going a little crazy with you, but I wanna really see you get what you want this year. Don't let this year be like last. And if last year was great, still don't let it be that way. Raise the standard. If your life is perfect and extraordinary, you darn well know you're not gonna be happy unless you keep making it better. That's what makes us feel alive. It's not what we get that makes us happy, it's who we become and what we're able to give because we become more. That sense of contribution is what creates the deepest meaning. So here's my assignment for you, if you want one. If you wanna go from conversation to some action, here's a simple thing to do. What's an area of your life right now that you really wanna improve? What's an area that's important to improve? If your body's great, how about your career? If career's great, how about your relationships? Intimate one especially, or your kids, or your relationship with your creator, spiritual side of your life. Or is it your finances? Figure an area that really matters, decide on that area. Number 1, write down what your life is like in that area right now as specifically as possible. So you might say, well, I'm 13.5 pounds overweight, whatever the weight is, whatever the situation is, or my body fat's like this, or I wake up exhausted in the morning, and you write the truth of where you are right now. So you're real clear. Or I'm not in a relationship. I say I want a relationship, but I'm not in one, and I don't seem to find them. All the good ones seem to be gone is my belief. And I really do want one, but I don't have it. Whatever your definition. Or I'm in a relationship, and God, I wish I wasn't in a relationship. I'm planning my escape, wherever you are. Or I have a wonderful relationship, we love each other, but there just isn't enough passion. Just write the truth of where you are. The area you want to change, but write how it is. And then the second step is, this is where you gotta be really honest with yourself. What are the rituals that have put me there? Because whatever results you're getting, even if you don't like the results, there's some rituals that are keeping you in that place. There's some rituals of what you eat or don't eat, how you move or don't move, how you sleep or don't sleep. There's some rituals in the lack of variety or spice or energy or focus in an area. There's something you're doing, and it's usually not one thing, it's a bunch of little things that you kind of do consistently whenever you think about getting in a relationship, whenever you think about working out, whenever you think about money. You get yourself in a state of overwhelm. You start thinking about all the things you can't control. Just write down all the rituals you have, and then here's the third step. What do you want? What's your vision? And be really specific. I want to be my fighting weight. I want to be the strongest I've ever felt. I'm going to turn whatever it is, be specific. And then, last step, number 4, what are the rituals that'll get you there? What would you need to do differently each morning if you're going to be that kind of energy, that kind of strength? How often would you or Master University or get a coach? You can get a free coaching session if you call our company and click on something on this, will probably have something on it, or get a product, or don't do anything with us, but do something with somebody, starting with you. If you make the changes in yourself, you're going to be proud this year, and no amount of money or accolades from other people can mirror the feeling of being proud of knowing you've taken back control of your life, or you've taken a great life to another level. Because once you do that, you have something you can give other people, whether it be your kids or your friends or your family. And ultimately, that's what life's about. So thanks for listening. I don't know how long I went here, but I hope this has been helpful for you. I just thought it's a new year, and I want people to be able to truly create a new life. And until I see you again, hopefully soon, or gets a chance to meet you, live strong and live with passion. And of course, God bless you. Happy New Year.
For more videos that help you to learn to live fully, please do subscribe to us. If you like this video, please do like and share this video. Do not forget to share your thoughts about this video and the topics you want us to cover in our future videos.